Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Leanne Deland with Carefree Chiropractic. Today I want to talk to you about fevers. Yes, we're talking about the fever. Most people assume, obviously we've been taking a lot of temperatures lately, right? Everywhere you walk into, it's something that we have to do here. You know, we're taking a temperature as a side of screening. When I drop my kids off at school, they're getting their temperatures checked. You know, we're really paying attention to the temperatures right now. And I think the biggest misconception out there that we need to clear up is that not everybody's normal is 98.6 degrees. Let's get real. So the first thing that we should all do is really just get a baseline of what our temperature is. I know for me, example, I'm below 98. I'm in the 97s, those high 97s. So if I'm going up or a degree or two, you know, 98.7 to me is an increase by 1 degree. That 99 is an increase now by 2 degrees. So it's really important to know your baseline. So today we're going to talk about really what to expect from fevers, the natural way to handle fevers, when to let them go, when to seek care. So first things first is not all temperatures are at 98.6 degrees. It's definitely an average. And that's just so that we have an idea of what that should look like. So no, not everybody is at 98.6 degrees. Start taking your temperature on a regular basis to get to know what your body temperature should be. It is different for everybody. It tends to be higher in children. It tends to be higher later in the day for kids. It's higher after we eat a meal. Just being aware of just natural things that would raise that temperature to something that is not something we need to look at or worry about. Okay, so that's the first one, right? Not everybody's temperature is 98.6 degrees. So what's next? 2 is that there are many reasons that your child's temperature could raise without it being cause for concern. Like we talked about, it was after a meal. It's later in the day. If you're taking your kid's temperature around dinner time, it's naturally going to be higher than it would be first thing in the morning. So just know your kids, know then your baseline. What does your temperature look like? Fact number 3, if we are running a very high temperature, we should know what that cause is. And now when I say a high temp, I'm talking 106 and higher. That is a high temperature. 102, 101, those are not high temps. Those are very, very low. Those are low grade, and they're even called low grade fevers. So no, you're looking at 106. 106 is cause for concern. But let me tell you something. If you're running a temperature of around 106, you probably have been either poisoned or you're subject to heat stroke. Those high temps over 106 and higher do not come from viruses and bacteria. Those viruses and bacteria will never, ever raise the temperature above 105. If the temperature is above 105, it's not those things. It's something way more serious, and you must seek medical attention. Fact number 4. Temperature readings will vary on how often they're taken. So one of my mentors in chiropractic, Dr. Fred, he suggests that if you take an hour and you take that temperature every 12 minutes, because a temperature taken at 8 a.m. and a temperature taken at 9 a.m. isn't a really good idea to what's shown that's happened in the past hour. Taking it every 12 minutes, what we should see is a wave, right? And that wave is there to say that the temperature is going up and down, and that's what we expect. A temperature is meant to wave. Being at 106 straight for a half hour is terrible. This is a medical emergency. That's why it's important to take that temperature frequently throughout the hour so that you can get a good baseline. And I feel that the best thing that we can do when we're letting a fever go and we're watching to see the severity of that fever is to observe. Observation is key. Observe. And nobody knows you or your child better than you. You know when you're acting weird, you know when they're acting weird. Know that. And also where you take that temperature is going to vary as far as the degree. An axillary temperature, that armpit temperature, is a really great indicator. It's awesome for kids. We don't have to do the rectal temperature. They don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. Let's stay away from that. But just so that you know, it is a degree higher than the axillary temperature. Orally is still great. It's hard for kids. It's hard for people who have, stuffed up noses to get a good read on with the oral temperature, so armpit's the way to go for those kids. It's so nice nowadays that we've got, the ones that can do the forehead or the ear really quickly. You can also measure that temperature at the wrist. It's also very diagnostic. So just know that it's going to vary whether you do it, temporally, forehead, orally, axillary, rectally. Just know that that's going to have an effect on whether that temperature is above or below really that patient's baseline. Fact number 5 about fevers is that we should let fevers go, right? If it's not 106 or higher, and if it's, just a fever, let it go. Unless that the only exception here is newborns, right? They are 0, 1, 2, even into that 3rd month. That is the exception to the rule. Always, always, always in that case, call the pediatrician, seek that medical attention. Newborns should not have fevers for any reason. So always, if they're that 0 to 3, immediately follow up with your pediatrician, your medical practitioner for advice first. If you are not a newborn, let the fever go. Okay, trust me, we'll talk about it in just a minute. So that's fact number 5. Fact number 6 about fever. Try to understand where that fever came from. Is it something they got into? Have they been overexposed? Were they having chills and now you've bundled them up with all of your, grandma's thick quilts? Have you overheated them? Take that into consideration. Really the best thing to do is they should be dressed down to your layer, right? If you've got a single layer on, a single layer is good enough for them. Don't falsely raise that temp just by bundling up. The chills is really a natural response. And what we're trying to do here is let the body do what it needs to do. Our body can function whether our conscious brain is present or not. So just remember that. It's a very good fact. Number 7, most fevers are caused by viral and bacterial infections, and our own defense mechanisms will take care of those fevers. So just know your body has got your back. Literally. We have been handling fevers, whether they be viral or bacterial, since the dawn of time, since man came to be. So we don't have to treat them. And in fact, when we start to do those interventions, whether it's the cold cloth, the Tylenol, the Motrin, we are interrupting the body's natural response to that fever. Remembering our educated brain doesn't need to fix the body's natural response. Okay, so the least that you can do is the best thing that you can do. I think it's also important to make sure that baby is drinking and light foods. We always heard, starve a cold, feed a fever. Good nutrients is always the right thing to do. I know whether I'm under the weather or the kids are under the weather, we do smoothies. I think smoothies are an outstanding way to get some good nutrients in. You're going to get your extra vitamins in from those protein shakes. You're going to be able to give them the hydration that they need, right? Because when we run fevers, whether it's us, the elderly, the young, is that we need as much moisture as possible to be able to fight those colds and fevers. So just know hydration is the key. As far as antibiotics go for treating fevers, again, whether it's viral fever or bacterial fever, antibiotics are not the way to go. This is old style of thinking, and what we've noticed over the years is that we're not improving kids these days. Their health isn't any better. We know more now in 21 than we did, in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. But the thing is that kids today aren't meant to outlive parents, and that is the first time in history. So we really need to go take a look at healthcare as a whole and start to make some important changes so that our kids can be well and healthy kids, because they should be. They're kids. So antibiotics for a fever, again, in ear infection, these are overprescribed, overutilized, and honestly they tend to create more GI issues. Again, long-term antibiotic use is terrible to the gut. We need to worry about the liver, and we need to worry about the gut, and taking any kind of medicines at whether it's a young child or an adult, you have to worry about the side effects, and there's always a side effects associated with putting something into your mouth to have a result. All right. I love this. Fact number 8, as far as fevers are concerned, is there is no consistent relationship between the height of the child's fever and the severity of the disease. So we tend to think the higher the temperature, oh my gosh, this is the worst. It must be some rare disease, right? Why is this temperature getting so high? Ear infections can clearly and easily get to those high temps. And it has nothing to do with the severity of that ear infection. Each child is different. Each person is different. They'll run their own temperatures. My son, for example, could run 105 temperature with an ear infection and talk to me and be able to communicate. He was still drinking water. I would, could ask him, do you want this? Do you want that? And he would just be very able to communicate with me. He wasn't lethargic. He was alert. So remembering that observation is the key to watching those high temps as well. So don't freak out when that temperature gets high. It's okay. So when you have to worry about those high temps is when it's accompanied by other symptoms. That's your nausea, vomiting, lethargy, those other puzzling and gross symptoms, unfortunately, that can go along with the high fevers. So that's when you really need to pay attention. Is it just a high fever? If it's high fever, your kid's in good spirits, they're eating, they're drinking. Gosh, some kids even play. Don't break the fever. That kid is fine and is going to be even better if you don't stop those natural responses of the body and let the body heal itself. It's meant to do that. It was designed to do that. We were never meant to interfere at this degree. So everybody take a step back and observe. All right. So fact number 9, untreated fevers caused by viral and bacterial infections do not rise inexorably and will not exceed 105 degrees. So remember that. If it's a viral or bacterial infection, that temperature is not going to go above 105. If your kid got sick at school and they've got, this high temp, 102, 103, not high. Watch the child, make sure the child is safe, but these are not high temperatures. These are normal temps. In fact number 10, measures to reduce temperatures such as drugs, sponging, right, that cool tepid bath, it can actually be worse and counterproductive. Again, if we let that fever run its course, then that fever breaks on its own, that child will be better. As soon as that fever breaks, boom, child is better. Let the fever go, let the fever break on its own, and then it's not going to be back to the pediatrician and 2 weeks later, kid is sick again. Back to the pediatrician, another round of antibiotics 4 weeks later. Back to the pediatrician again. Just stopping the fever. Let the fever go. 102 is okay. I said it. Fact number 11 about fevers is fevers produced by viral or bacterial infections will not cause brain damage or physical harm. That's part of the reason why so many moms will rush their kids to the hospital for 102 temperature. The pediatrician says 102 or higher, break that temp, take them to the hospital. No. We don't run the risk of having brain damage. We don't run the risk of physical permanent damage. Actually, the counterproductive part, having those interventions to stop the fever, that's where the problem lies. It isn't letting that fever go. It's a time to let those fevers run their course. Again, you have to observe the child. Don't be like they have a high temp and throw them in the room and let them sleep it off. Be there, be observant. But there is no risk of brain damage. There is no risk of permanent damage or physical harm. Let the fever go. Trust me. And finally, fact number 12 is high fevers do not cause convulsions. The reason why a child will have a febrile seizure or convulsion is because of the rate at which the fever goes. So if you have a quick spike, that's when kids are more susceptible to those convulsions or those seizure types. And this is by no means any indication for further cause for concern for seizures or convulsions in your child, let alone a follow-up convulsion related to fever in the future. They have no bearing on that child's future prevalence for seizure. Just know that. This is not a reason to put them on, I think they were prescribing phenobarbital to children back in 30, 40, 50 years ago. And what we know about that today, you would never give that to a kid. So please, don't be alarmed by febrile seizures. It is just the body's natural response because that temp elevated way too fast. And then once it hits that point, it doesn't matter. Let that fever run its course. Make sure a child is not lethargic. Make sure they're not vomiting. Make sure they're still acting like themselves. And then you know what you're doing is safe and that the child will be able to overcome a fever. A fever is just a natural response to a virus, a bacteria, external environmental factors. You know when your kid is sick. You know what they came in contact with. Let's bring some more confidence back to men and women as parents, bring more confidence back to the natural mechanisms that our body is designed to be healthy. It craves health. It craves effectiveness. It craves efficiency. Your body knows what to do. The nice thing about chiropractic in this regard is that when a child comes to me and they have a fever, getting their adjustment will release those right type of chemicals in the right manner and amount to help that kid to get over their illness, whatever that may be, whether it's viral, whether it's bacteria. An adjustment always helps to speed up that healing. So if you or somebody that you know, their kid is sick all the time, you're sick all the time, let's have a conversation. Let's start making some changes, knowing that febrile response is a natural and safe mechanism that the body knows what to do and knows how to care for you. So I'm Dr. Leanne Deland with Carefree Chiropractic, getting hot in this cold Colorado spring. So hope you have a great day, a healthy day. And remember, chiropractic is great for helping people get well and stay well. Thanks and have an awesome day.